Alright guys, I'm back! So this is going to be lesson 3 today, and today we're going to be subtracting rational numbers. Alright, so subtracting rational numbers is almost the same as adding, but we got the negative sign in there instead. Okay, so same rules apply to start. Okay, so subtracting fractions, when subtracting fractions we need a common denominator as well, right? So just like when we were adding. If we're subtracting a negative number, the two negative signs become positive. So that's that whole rule that some math teachers hate, but two wrongs make a right in math, right? Not in real life. Don't seek out revenge if somebody wronged you, okay? Not the story that I'm trying to tell here. So we add the opposite in the end, and so for example here we have positive 1.4 minus negative 3.8, and so these two negatives end up as positives. We can flip those signs, okay? And so we end up with 1.4 plus 3.8 for a grand total of 5.2. Okay, we're going to start with fractions though. So fractions, again, we need to find that common ground, that common denominator in order to solve our problem. Okay, so here we start with 5, 6, and we're subtracting 4/3. Same thing, right? 3 and 6 have a common denominator in 6, and so we won't even affect the 5, 6, that can stay the same, and then 4/3, right, just times 2 over 2. So we end up with 8 over 6, and that's our final common denominator for our problem here. Alright, so now we got to put everything back in order how we found it. So we go 5 6 minus 8 6. Alright, and so 5 minus 8 is going to be minus 3, right? And then our denominator stays the same. So we end up with negative 3/6, which we can also simplify to 1 over 2. Okay, if I specify please reduce or to the lowest common denominator or something like that, this is the answer you will need to find. Okay, if I don't specify it, I don't expect it, but it's good practice. Make sure your brain is staying sharp and all of that. Okay, all right, so let's go with the next problem here. So we're starting with negative 5/4. We're subtracting negative 3 1/5. Wow, that's a lot going on. All right, so what I would say, let's start just by simplifying our expression and getting rid of that extra negatives if we can. Okay, so here we have negative 5/4. We're minusing negative 3 1/5. So two negatives, we can go positive. Okay, so we're adding 3 1/5. All right, next step. We're going to take our mixed number and we're going to change it into an improper fraction. Okay. So here, 3 over 5, sorry, 3 1/5. Okay, and again, we go our denominator times our whole, so 5 times 3 is 15, and we simply add that to our numerator, okay, and so we go 15 plus 1 is equal to 16. Okay, then we go back, same denominator, put our newfound number on top, and that's our improper fraction. Okay, so now let's rewrite our expression. Always start and rewrite it just to make sure you don't get lost and you start using numbers you didn't have in the first place. If you rewrite it at each stage, it's going to make it a lot easier for you. Okay, all right, so last thing we have to do is find a common denominator. Unfortunately, it's pretty big when we're dealing with 4 and 5, right? So 4 times 5 is 20. So what we're going to do is for both of our fractions here, we need to go and find that. So first we're going to start with negative 5 over 4 times 5 over 5. 5 over 5, okay, and that will equal 25 over 20, and don't forget your negative, okay? Next thing we have, right, I'm just going to go like this to make sure we know we broke this up. 16 and 5, so we go 16 over 5, and we're going times 4 over 4. Okay, again, feel free to use your calculator, and you can go out of 20, and 16 times 4 is going to be 64, right? And now we can put our denominators and everything back to where we found it. So we start with negative 25 over 20, okay? And we're adding 64 over 20. So our denominator stays the same, okay? And we end up with 39 20ths. And that's a positive number because there's more positives than negatives, right? And again, we can take that number and we can switch it back to a mixed fraction. Again, if I don't specify, you don't lose marks, but I would recommend the practice, okay? So 20 goes into 49 once, and we end up with 19 20ths remainder, and that is our final answer. All right, let's do another example here. Example 3. So now we've got two mixed numbers and we're just subtracting ones. So again, the biggest step here is taking your mixed fractions and changing them to an improper fraction, okay? So here we go 8 times 4, okay, so 32. 32 plus 3 equals 30. 35 eighths, and then we're off to a good start. Okay, now we're going to do our next number. So we had negative 2 and 5/6. So here 6 times 2 is 12, and plus 5, so 12 plus 5 is equal to 17. Now, don't forget your negative, so 17 over 6, we're off to the races. Okay, so again, put everything back in order, how you found it. So 35 eighths minus 17 sixths. Okay, so what's the next step here? Finding a common denominator. So 8 and 6 have 24 in common, so now we need to do a little more work. So 35 eighths times 3 over 3. Okay, and that's going to get us to where we need to be. So 24, and 35 times 3 is 105. Again, I don't need you guys to do this in your head. Please use a calculator just to double check your work. I know I am, because that's what mathematicians do. We always double check our work, okay? And then 17 over 6 times 4 over 4, okay? So we're done our denominator of 24, and our answer will be 68 here, okay? So final, we're going to solve everything. We're going to go 105 over 24. Subtract, because again, this was our negative number, right? 68 over 24. And our final answer will be out of 24 to start. Okay, and we end up with 37/24. Again, this can be simplified down, so 24 goes into 37 once. Okay, so 1 and 13/24 is our final answer. Okay, so it's a lot of work, guys. I understand that, and that's why we're going to do this practice. The more we get to practice these problems, the better we'll be at them, okay? And I know it's been a long summer. I enjoyed mine. I hope you enjoyed yours. But time to get our brains going again. Okay, so let's keep going. Just a couple more problems and we are good to go. All right, so we're going to do another improper negative. So again, we got to rewrite everything, simplify it as best we can. Okay, so I'm going to take out a few of these steps of how to go from improper to mixed, just to speed things up for these problems. We've done enough of it. Again, if you're struggling with this and you're like, oh, I keep getting this wrong, I don't understand this, Mr. B, ask me a question. Highlight, like put a big highlighter box around this, okay? I can get you some extra practice, I can get you some other problems, We're going to talk about Khan Academy later. It's a great resource that I'm going to open up to you guys that'll allow you to get some extra tutorial videos and some extra practice on some of the things you're working with, and it'll be great. Okay, so here we're going to go 1 3/4 can be simplified to 7 quarters, and then again we have negative or minus a negative, which is the same as adding. Okay, and so then we're going to add 7 seconds. Okay, but again we need a common denominator, so we go 7/4 plus 14/4, because again we just did times 2/2. Okay, and now we can add everything, and so 21/4. Okay, this again can be simplified. 4 goes into 21 5 times, and we end up with 1/4 remaining. All right, guys, awesome. Okay, hope you're doing great. Hope you haven't fallen asleep yet. Again, I'm going to try and do my best to keep this going. These videos should actually help shorten how much time you have to listen to me in class, which for some of you might be a good bonus. All right, let's keep this going. Last problem, and then we're done lesson 3. Yes! All right, so Dan and Jody are going camping. Hope some of you got out camping this summer. It started out great until about mid-August, then the weather turned. So they are bringing $352.33 with them to the grocery store to buy food for the trip. If they spend $245.67, how much money will they have left? All right, guys, so we have a positive number to start. They had $352.33. They spent money, so we're subtracting $245.67. Okay, how do we deal with subtracting decimals? Line them up. All right, so $352.33 minus $245.67 for a grand total of $106.66. Okay, if you want to go all the way, we started with dollars, we should end with dollars. Final answer, hope you want to be a millionaire. Okay, have a great day, guys. We'll see you in lesson 4.